it's an arbitrary number thrown on a piece of paper because they don't want to do the legwork up front. And what's this entire series about for you guys, for the homeowner? It's about doing your legwork up front. And if you're going to put the time in to be organized and get things done the right way, they should too. And here's why John and I like doing line item bids. It double-checked ourselves. We knew that we weren't underbidding a project and screwing ourselves in the process.
That's a good, actually, that's
right?
a great that's
so
a great
anybody
point.
who knows their business and isn't afraid to show you the detail is somebody you want to be working with. A lump sum number scares me, and it should scare you. You're at home with the Cousins. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Home with the Cousins. We are running back through the project planning series. If you've listened to this before, it is definitely worth another listen. There is an absolute ton of information in these 7 episodes. I would also encourage you to share this with a friend. Think about somebody who's got an upcoming renovation, wants to do a home remodel, and really isn't prepared to do so. Share this episode, share this series with those people. We really want to share knowledge here. After these 7 episodes, we will be back with all fresh content. Without further ado, jump into it. All right, so today, budgets. We are talking about budgeting your project.
I think that's the one thing that everybody gets nervous about, right? It is the one part of the project that it could just blow things out of proportion.
You say that, but I love it because every topic we get to, you go, and this is the one thing that people get really. You know what? It's a construction project.
It is.
Every part is nerve-wracking.
True. But when money steps in, that's
Amen.
when I guess I should say that's when it's real.
Yes.
That's when the project is very real. Well, I think first things first is getting the quotes, right? That is the initial start of the process. Is getting the quotes in. We always say 3 quotes. We want to get those 3 bids because it's going to allow you to really see if what you're estimating in your mind is actually on. We found when you get 3 quotes, you're going to get one that is either going to be way too high or way too low. That's going to be your outlier. The other 2 are going to be very similar. Now, depending on your project, if you're doing a larger renovation, like a kitchen and a bathroom, or maybe your first floor, they could be off anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000. That's where you have to start breaking down the bids and seeing what is inside of it. So before you even start that process, never go for the one that is the lowest. I know a lot of people like to do that. You throw it out, you get rid of it, and then you start really dissecting the 2 bids that are the closest.
Yeah, and I think it's worth noting, you're not limited to only getting 3 bids. You can get 10 if you want. It's a lot more legwork for you. But 3 generally gives you enough of a cross-section that you're going to get a realistic number that is accurate. And at the end of the day, that's what we're going for is accuracy. And we say 3 because of what John just noted, Sometimes all the bids will come in and they'll all be really close and be in line together. Those are 3 guys, 3 ladies, whatever, 3 companies that know what they're doing. If you do have one of those quotes that comes in high or low, that is your outlier, and that says maybe this person doesn't have a good grasp of the job. You can feel free to go back to that person. If you really had a good vibe from them and you liked that person and you felt comfortable with them in your house, don't feel like you can't go back and say, hey, I got my 3 bids like I told you I would, and we'll get into the communication of that in a minute. But, you were the one bid that was really outside the other 2. I'm not going to tell you if you were high. I'm not going to tell you if you were low. That's not fair to the other people who were quoting my project. But I am telling you that I liked you, and I thought you had good ideas for the project. And I felt comfortable with you in my home. Would you like to give that bid another pass and you give that person another opportunity to take a stab at it?
Well, and I think when you are dissecting the bids, the one thing that people have to really realize is the contractor shouldn't just give you a total price, right? It has to be broken out for you.
Line item by line item.
And we've done that with all of our jobs because now you're understanding what the components are and how he got to that number. And that's going to allow you to make your own Excel sheet to really put side-by-side numbers.
Well, and the other thing that's great about line items is that sometimes you, as the homeowner, will be the person that will be able to decipher where one of the contractors made a mistake. Because the more detail that's in the bid, you're looking at A, B, and C. A and B are pretty much in line all the way down. Then you get to, let's say, line item 5 or 6, and contractor C is way off the mark. You can give him a buzz and be like, hey, man, you're way off here. I think you might have been looking at something wrong. Why don't we take a look at the plans together?
Well, but I think, and we've seen, a lot of contractors, I think, like, it's easier for them just to say the total number is X, whatever it is.
But see, I disagree with that. I think that's...
Or do you think they don't want to show it? They don't want to...
No. My opinion of that is that it's an arbitrary number thrown on a piece of paper because they don't want to do the legwork up front. And what's this entire series about for you guys, for the homeowner? It's about doing your legwork up front. And if you're going to put the time in to be organized and get things done the right way, they should too. And here's why John and I like doing line item bids. It double-checked ourselves. We knew that we weren't underbidding a project and screwing ourselves in the process.
That's a good, actually, that's
right?
a great that's
So
a great
anybody
point.
who knows their business and isn't afraid to show you the detail is somebody you want to be working with. A lump sum number scares me, and it should scare you.
Yeah, because you do not want the contractor coming to you midway through the project saying, hey,
this wasn't included.
I screwed up. I forgot this. And that's when you get into the change orders, which that's a whole nother topic. But
that's a different episode.
That's a different episode, of course. But that's why I think having it detailed and line itemed, we've always said you always have change orders, but you will avoid less of them because the full scope of work is there.
Absolutely. And beyond that, the other thing that a line item does is if the total cost of the project comes in higher than you want to spend, you can pull out line item by okay, listen, I'm going to get rid of line item 3, 5, and 7 because I can't afford to do this whole project now. And 3, 5, and 7, I can slide to the side, know I'm going to do this part of the project at a later date when I have the money. And guess what? We're not going through the entire bid process again. We're going to pull out the number from line 3, from 5, from 7. We're going to, if it was done in a spreadsheet, like you guys are going to have, the total's going to update automatically, and you're going to see that you're going to now be able to afford your project without wasting the time of having to go back through the entire exercise again.
I think that's an excellent point because if you have it there, you really see what you can afford because it goes both ways. You got the contract.
Well, and you know what? On my screen, that was my first note was be realistic with what you can spend.
Yes.
And
look,
guys,
that's a huge point.
Yeah, and like we always say, there's not a straight line here, so bear with us with the conversation because we do have to jump around a little bit because as you discuss certain things, it allows you to jump back to others. Why do I say that? Because you can't be realistic with what you want to spend if you don't know what things cost. But conversely, you know how much money you have a finite amount of it, and you know what you can budget toward a project. So yes, sometimes you're going to go and you're going to get a bid not knowing what it's going to cost, but knowing what you can spend. So after you get that total price back, you then revisit what you can spend. You revisit the entire scope of the project, which is why John and I say a lot now, it's 2 steps forward, 1 step back, 2 steps forward, 1 step back, because these processes overlap a lot, and you have to be willing to iterate in order to get to the final product and make sure you've crossed your T's and dotted your I's.
And I think even if you look at us in a personal nature and projects that we've even done for ourselves, that's exactly what we've done. Like when I did my home,
sure.
when I budgeted out, there were certain things I realized I can do this, I can't do that. Same thing when we were developing any of our projects in the Hudson County area. Right, we got our bids, we figured out,
Absolutely.
Hey, we would love to do all this. But we itemized it, we had it laid out, and then we started crossing off things that we said, that blew out our budget, we don't have that,
right.
We don't have enough money from the bank.
Yep.
If we run out of it, what are we going to do?
And guys, like there are a million options out there of tile, countertops, flooring. they all come in at different price points. So yes, we have the ultimate of what we want to accomplish, but then we have reality, and there is a balance there. There's a lot of great ways to save money, and I don't want to get too far off track, but value engineering a project, which, well, I guess is appropriate for this episode.
Yeah, it is.
So value engineering a project is after you get your initial bid. My father's going through this right now in the Heights, in Jersey City Heights. So he got his bid for a building that he's building.
How many units are they doing?
I think 16 he's doing.
16.
So it's a 16-unit building, and the price per square foot, whatever it is too high. He needs to come in lower than he is at. So he's sitting with his general contractor and he's sitting with his architect, and they're going through a round called value engineering. And that is both of those professionals and himself making suggestions to change items within the scope that are going to make the project more economical for him to build. And when a general contractor looks at a set of plans for the first time, they're bidding that project based on what you have asked the architect to put on paper. They know there are options out there that are cheaper.
Yep.
So when that bid comes back, don't think it's the end-all be-all. Say, hey, guys, can you do a value engineering round for me? Where can I save money here, the radiant heat might be a little too expensive, or, hey, man, you got solid core doors through this whole thing, wide plank floors. Yep. There are ways to save money and still get an overwhelmingly great product that you're really pleased with at the end of the day. So definitely ask for that value engineering round.
Well, and I think architects, and they should do this, they do overbuild sometimes when they make the plans.
They overbuild, and they have great design sensibilities.
Of course.
So they want to build. When you as the homeowner are excited and you're asking for great stuff, they're going to spec it.
And I don't think that, that's a great way to save money, because if you're just asking your general contractor to sit down with the architect and to come up with ideas that can save money on the project, it only helps everybody. But it all comes back to communication, right?
That's it,
right.
buddy.
I think it's the same thing we've been preaching it over and over and over. This isn't taking.
There's no straight line to the finish, and you got to communicate.
Got to communicate, and if it doesn't mean you take the piece of paper and you say, okay, well that's it. Hey, I guess it is, but sit down, but have a real conversation. You don't. I think guys, the point I want to make here is you don't just say to somebody it has to be cheaper. That's not the way to do it, right? That's not the way to do it, because there's so many components that go into your project. It's not as easy as just say, hey, you got to take 15% off the top. Don't do that. Like Anthony said, if you value engineer it, you take the time, you actually see the real cost savings. So I think it's definitely going to behoove everybody to really just take that time and go through that process.
So and on the idea of value engineering, the flip side of that is change orders. And while we will get into the process of change orders in a different episode and how to handle them with your contractor, the fact of the matter is they're a real thing. They're not always someone's fault. They do just occur sometimes. When you have an existing condition that is not conforming to code, a contractor is required by law to fix those things. And you can't expect as a homeowner that they're responsible for the cost of that because they didn't have X-ray vision to see through the sheetrock.
Happens all the time.
So with that being said, and I'm completely leaving out the fact that we all change our minds, that we find new products, that there are different things out there, and
people change. Wait, people change their minds. What are you talking about? What are you talking about?
We're just looking at the things that are unavoidable, right? So with that said, a 20% contingency fee. People have different opinions on this, as with all things, 10, 15. John and I are firm believers in 20, and I think 20, depending on the size of your project, 20 can be light.
Can be.
But, 20% contingency fee. Now, what does that mean? That means the total hard costs for your project. So your general contractor's fee, your architect's fee, your designer's fee, those are considered soft costs. Those are not items where you're spending money and that thing is going to wind up living in your home. It's not a 2x4, it's not a piece of wire, it's not a piece of pipe. So 20% of the entire hard cost of the project. So when your bid comes in from your contractor, let's say just for easy math, it's $100,000. You have to have $120,000 ready to spend. Not, I might. Just mentally prepare yourself.
You will spend that money.
That you're going to spend it. And then guess what? If you don't, whatever you're in the black, go out to an awesome dinner, grab an extra little piece of design, something that you wanted for the house.
Buy some cool furniture.
Right. But expect to spend it and then be pleasantly surprised if you don't. It's about preparing yourself, giving yourself realistic expectations. And if you manage your own expectations, you're going to be less stressed out as the project goes along.
In the hundreds of projects we've done, there's never been one that there's not been a change order or something.
What's our record? What's the record? Wait.
Our record for change orders on one project is somewhere in the ballpark of 25 to 30. I don't even know the exact number because I think once it gets over 10, you start to lose count. But we were in the high 20s. I mean, it was unbelievable.
It was crazy, guys, and it was for no other reason than the homeowner could not make up their minds.
No,
they kept changing what they wanted. Believe it or not, the change orders wound up exceeding the initial contract price.
Amount. Yep.
That's crazy. That has never happened to me before that project, and it hasn't happened since. And that's not the way you want to go into a project. And really, that's the crux of why we're laying out this entire series for you guys, because we want to help you avoid that.
Because that person did not plan properly.
Right.
We've talked about that.
Exactly right.
But talking about the contingency, perfect example for me, even when I was doing a lot of work over at my home and we were putting in the new water lines, gas lines, and doing all that excavation work. Okay, I had a budget line item for that, right? You know it's going to be pretty high to do that, and I had a very long run to bring in the utilities into the house. Well, going midway through the driveway of getting to my house, we hit major boulders. Now,
I remember that. That delayed you a while.
Now, I can't guys, what you have to realize is this isn't something that the contractor knows that's going to happen. He told me, we talked about it. We said, hey, could happen. I don't know about your soil. I don't know. There's
if it's a straight run, if it's easy, this is the price.
Exactly.
But if I hit, you go back to, God, this was even before you were working with us. But when me and my dad did our second project at 69 Franklin Street, the entire basement was bluestone. Same with the project we did on Ogden when we dug out that basement. They wanted extra head height. That was 4 extra weeks of chipping and cracking bluestone to get it out of the basement to get the person 9 feet of headroom instead of 7. For that extra 2 feet, they lost a month on their project.
Wow.
Because they didn't want to compromise.
Wow. And you had to chip away all that bluestone.
Absolutely.
Did you have to you use the chemical and expand it, crack it? And
it was a nightmare.
Those are things you have to, and it's good to talk to the contractor ahead of time to say this could happen. These are pitfalls. These are areas where we could run into problems. And if you go into it with eyes wide open, then it's not going to be the big oh my God, I can't believe it. Right. I never thought that this would happen to us.
Right. So, have the conversations and communicate. So, and I just want to take a step back real quick. We told you get 3 bids from your general contractor. Guys, this applies to your architect too. So, last episode we were talking about planning, and you don't just go and pick your first architect out of the box too. You have them give you multiple prices. You're gonna want to feel like they understand your design sensibilities as much as you want to understand a quote from them for the project. Yeah. And then the third component is a designer. Now, that's an optional component. If you're comfortable and confident with creating your own spaces and you have a good eye, you don't necessarily need to work with one. What I would say is that it's worth interviewing them because designers of anybody, I think, quote in the most variety of ways, I guess I could say. And by that I mean, for example, myself, I will generally give the person a flat fee, and then I will give to them all of the design discounts that I'm afforded. So I get 25% off here, 10% off there, 30% off here. And all of those discounts translate to my clients. And my goal for my clients, because I want to provide real value, is that I want the savings that my clients realize through my design discounts to exceed the amount that I've charged them, so that they wind up saving total money over the whole job. So if you find somebody that prices like that, well, basically, the way I tell it to my clients, you're getting me for free.
Free. It's a wash. It's a wash at the end of the day.
And if you can get me for free to have a little bit of extra expertise, and when you have those questions and that unsurety, it's really a good peace of mind. You have the same design sensibilities. You have the added bonus of these discounts. It's really worth exploring that with a few different designers.
One thing I want to kind of transition over to is, we talked about, of course, you get your bids, you pick your bid, you have the conversations about the pitfalls, areas where you maybe could go over on the budget. You get the conversations of change orders out of the way. I think the one thing we've been getting a lot of questions like this is, well, once I get all that set,
right,
how much of a deposit do I actually give?
Great segue.
How do I,
Sure.
now,
so
okay.
It's called a payment schedule.
It's called a payment schedule. So now everybody said, okay, we agree on it. How much do I start off? Because, look, a lot of people have been there. You give a big deposit, the guy doesn't show up, or they don't come, or they don't come to the job.
Listen, we just finished a home show in Florida not too long ago, and I don't know what's going on down there.
Florida,
we feel for you guys. Thanks for all the love and for asking us to come and build down there.
Yeah.
But apparently a lot of contractors take the money and run, if you will.
Well, I think it just comes down to, when you give that big of a deposit, look, it's tempting, and it can happen, and
I don't know. That's just a scumbag.
It is a scumbag move. But I will say this, guys. We always say 20%. That's the most. That's really the most. It depends on the size of your project too.
Yes.
Of course, the smaller the project, the less amount of money, you're not going to be doing that. So we're talking a medium-sized project, anywhere from $50,000 to the $75,000 range, 20%
yes,
to start off your project for him to start buying materials. There's no problem with that. And I think the biggest thing, this is what we learned, because we used to do this where we used to do it in 3 payments. You do kind of an upfront payment. You do a payment when the rough inspections, and then your final inspections.
Right.
That did not work out well for us at all. And we changed it fast when we were doing our general contracting company. And what we learned was weekly payments. It keeps everybody honest. Nobody gets ahead of each other. So the homeowner doesn't feel that he's gave the contractor way too much money and the contractor's ahead. The contractor doesn't feel like I've done so much work and I haven't gotten paid for it. It keeps a nice balance.
Absolutely.
And guess what? The contractor doesn't show up on that Friday. Well, he's not going to get his check, and he's not going to keep getting paid.
Yeah, that's a great point. And guys, please remember, all of this stuff is up to the discretion of you and your team. So the payment schedule, there's no set hard and fast rule. There's nothing that's legally required in that sense. You guys need to communicate and decide what works for each of you. And to John's point, it's a little more legwork on your end, but whether it's weekly or every other week, whatever you guys are comfortable with, whatever you guys discuss, keeping each other where no one feels like they're getting too far ahead of the other person just keeps everybody sleeping well at night, keeps the management of expectations where they need to be, and it keeps the communication window open. And it's always goes back to communication, 100%.
Well, because we've been on the other side of the coin that I just explained. And guys, in all honesty, any contractors that are listening to this, look, we get it too. We've been there where we've been so far ahead of our work, we weren't getting paid for it. So, there was 35% still left on the payment schedule, and the project was over 90% finished. Well, our cash flow was really hurt. And if you're doing a big project, that can cause a lot of problems. So, again, it just keeps everybody honest. And Ant, you made, I think, the great point. Doesn't have to be every week. It could be bi-weekly. It could be once a month. It's what really makes everyone comfortable for their situation.
Correct. And we're giving this by way of example, and I think you did a great job illustrating it. But I just want you guys at home and everybody who's listening to understand it's fluid. But what I do want to convey is, when I say it's fluid, it's up to you guys to decide how you want to do it. But you put the payment schedule in writing. It's an addendum to the contract. It's signed by both parties. And once the schedule is set, it doesn't change. You adhere to that schedule so that, again, the expectations are met. We wrote them down. They're in black and white. We both understand how it's going to be handled, and it's in writing. And that's the key. Crossing T's and dotting I's.
Well, and what a lot of people have to realize, even – they might say, oh, well, it's just a construction project. It doesn't have to be that professional. Guys, doing it this way, having the contracts.
Small or large.
It doesn't matter.
Yep.
Why? Because you are protecting yourself. Because you don't want to get in the spot where the project is halfway through and you say, oh, we didn't talk about that, or this wasn't in the contract, and now the contractor doesn't want to do the work. You're doing all this to protect yourself. And contractors, it's to protect you at the same time.
Yeah.
Everything, it goes both ways. So you have the transparency, everybody's on the same page, and everybody can just work and get it done as fast as possible.
And I'll say that not all contractors who don't do these things, they're not all bad. They just might not have enough office staff. Yep. They've never done it before. They've always held true to their word. But the more we travel the country and the more we hear horror stories, that it's really the whole impetus for this podcast, because we want to get the conversation started. And I think, educating you guys as the homeowners to say, listen, bring this up to your contractors. You're going to wind up helping them out, and they're going to have a good experience too, because you guys are managing each other's expectations and you're keeping that communication window open. And it's really all that it's about. There's so much on both sides of the coin that people don't relate to the other side. If you just talk it out, it saves so many headaches. And by the end of the job, you wind up happy to recommend the contractor to the next person, instead of being like, get out of my house, I'm so happy this is over. There's no reason you can't get to the end of your project with a smile on your face.
Well, and I think, traveling the country, doing the shows, doing private projects, the one thing we always do, the conversations we always have with all these general contractors at the start of the project, that's the only reason why they get done so fast, because everybody's so open. We bring our contractor together. We say, Hey guys, look, we know there's going to be problems. We know there's going to be issues. We want to talk it out with you. We are here to get this done as fast as possible.
Right.
When we do the show, sometimes it's 3 days, but we are there to work as a team. And if everybody's on the same page, that's when it gets done for the price, sometimes cheaper, and it gets done faster.
Absolutely. So I'm just going to back up a second and just really recap what we talked about. So we want to be realistic with what we can spend, and you're going to do that through iterating on the budget as you work through it with your architect and your general contractor. You want to create your own spreadsheet, regardless what these guys give you in bid format. You're always getting a line item budget, you're always getting a line item bid. You're not accepting lump sums. Strongly encourage at least 3 bids. Feel free to do more if you want, but get 3 bids. That's the easiest way to really tell what the project should be priced at. 20% contingency fee for emergencies and for nonconformity of code issues. And consider working with a designer and getting the benefit of their design discounts as well. I think that's everything we've covered so far.
Everything
right?
we talked about. We talked about the deposit of 20%.
We talked about deposit, and then we also talked about payment schedule.
And I would like to say this. We got this question a lot, and we've been getting it around the country as well. You get into, of course, the deposits. We talked about doing maybe weekly, bi-weekly payments, but something that I like and I think can work well is doing a cost plus job. Is really, if you're going into it And guys, so a cost plus job is you are telling the general contractor. Now, he's going to be getting bids from a number of subcontractors. He has his electrician, he has a plumber, he has carpenters, he has painters, he has flooring guys, he's a tile guy. You have a very large team. You tell him, get me all of the bids. I want to see all the bids, and all we're going to do is it's going to be 20% on top of that, and that is their profit.
Well, that's your and by the way, the 20% is a suggestion. Obviously, contractors work for more; they work for less based on their skill set, size of the company, speed of the job. But again, John's illustrating a very good point here.
So I like doing it. And cost plus is actually done on a lot of commercial jobs. Because you run out of those pitfalls of going over. If you're in a commercial job, you only have a certain finite amount of money. So this is a good way to really see those actual bids. And you're knowing that the general contractor isn't getting these really low bids from his subcontractor, and maybe he's putting 50, 60% on top of it.
Very true. Very true. I'm going to give one argument to the contrary just to give you guys something to think about. And John's right. It is done more on commercial jobs, and I feel like that's because these are guys that are very comfortable with the process, and they go through these plans a lot, and they're used to the details that are on a set of drawings. Here's one of the pitfalls of doing cost plus. There's no hard and set number as a total. So if the contractor gets a cost, you, the homeowner, get that cost with 20% added to it as his charge. So if you have a smaller job, or it doesn't even really matter the size. But if you just get a job straight bid out, well, yeah, you know what? Maybe the contractor's profit margin is a bit higher. But at the end of the day, if you can afford that total sum of money, and you have peace of mind knowing that that is the end-all, be-all number, you've got your 20% contingency, then you might be sleeping a little better at night knowing, okay, this is it. So that's just one argument for going a traditional bid route, but it is definitely worth asking your contractor how they feel about cost plus.
I was just going to say, it's asking.
Yes.
Look,
That's
in all honesty, some private guys might not even know what cost plus is. I don't know. I mean, you and I, we've been doing this long enough. We know the commercial side. We know the private side. This is a suggestion for everybody at home just to see. It could in the end, it could save you some money. You could have more transparency through that bid. But this is something definitely to ask and see if your contractor knows how to do it and if they can offer it to you.
Absolutely. As we're winding up here, we're going to the next topic I want to touch on is something we probably should have started with.
Oh, here we go. What?
No, it's bid iteration. And that simply means that the bid is not done all at once. Now, we've talked about getting a bid from your general contractor and then going back for a second round of value engineering. Well, before you get your detailed bid from a general contractor, if you're looking to try and jumpstart the process, and or you really don't know a general contractor and you're trying to suss out a few different guys and figure out who you really want to bid this thing, you can take an early set of construction drawings from your architect. They're going to be early. They're not going to have all the details on them. They will have the general layout of where the new walls will be and the old walls will be down, so people can do takeoffs on square footage. And what the contractors will be able to do is provide you a ballpark bid. They will not be able to say this is going to cost X numbers of dollars and cents, but they're going to say, well, you're going to be in this kind of range. So in doing that first round of bidding, it allows you to maybe weed out some guys who are not very good communicators. So on a ballpark round, maybe you want to go with 5 guys or 6 guys, expecting a few people to drop off or not get back to you. The project's too big for me. The project's too small for me. There's a million reasons. So sending out an early set of plans is a good way to see who's communicating with you, their communication style, and just getting that relationship started. I will say that you have to have that set of plans, right, John?
Yeah.
In order to even start that conversation. Calling general contractors and saying, I want to do a renovation.
I'm telling you I'm telling you right now, I don't know. I cannot tell you how many people have called our office.
It's tough.
And they say,
you can feel their excitement.
I'm excited for them.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to take down some walls. I know everyone wants to get the sledgehammer and just go at it. But look, just saying, hey, I got $50,000 to do a kitchen. Guys, that means nothing.
Yeah.
We
don't know what your house looks like. We don't know the dimensions.
You don't know anything. Look, it's the same thing as if you were going into a surgery, right? The doctor has to evaluate you first. He's gotta take X-rays. He's gotta take blood work.
You don't just walk in and they cut you open.
Hey man, let's go! I'm ready to fly. That's a good analogy. And at the same time,
that's a good analogy.
But let's think about this. Would you want a heart doctor come in and say, "Hey, Aunt, you know what? Forget the blood work. Forget everything. Let's just go right into it. Cut it open. Let's just go. I'm going to see if those
exactly right.
You would never.
Just like you prep for surgery.
You would never do that.
Right. You want to prep for a successful home renovation.
You would never do that.
Yeah. So as much as we probably should have touched on that at the beginning, got a good laugh toward the end here.
But hey, it's the dance, right?
It's the dance.
It's
the zig. It's the zag, buddy.
This is the dance because it is, guys. I think you'll see and listening and hear us talk about this. It's such a fluid process that you're never going to follow it exactly to the T every single time. One, why? Because every project is completely different. They're completely unique to themselves. All contractors are different. All architects are different.
All homeowners are different.
All homeowners are different. So this is going to be a fluid process, and you're taking parts and pieces of this, and you're fitting it into the way you want it to run and the way you want it to really work.
So I think the last thing, unless you have something after this, but the last thing I had in my mind that I wanted to talk about was looking at your finish materials.
Yep.
Right. So, everybody gets wrapped up, and rightly so, picking the team, getting the general contractor there. But it may seem a little early to be saying I want this couch or I want that dining room table or I want this backsplash tile, but guys, it all costs money, and I know everybody knows that. I mean, when you work hard for it and you're going to spend it, it's going to cost money. So it's worth trying to get at least ballpark numbers for every category. By that I mean, okay, I'm doing my dining room. Well, I'm going to go on to Restoration Hardware or Crate and Barrel or West Elm and just see what dining tables range for. And I'm gonna pick an average number. If it's 2,000, it's 2,000. If it's 500, it's 500. Whatever your price range is, but put those things in there. Backsplash. Okay, well, your backsplash is going to be 18 inches high, so you take your tape measure and you run it for however many feet. If it's a 10-foot run, if it's a 20-foot run, and then you go and pick a tile at a store or you go online very simply and say, all right, backsplash tiles ranging from anywhere from $2 a square foot for Subway up to $60 a square foot for semi-precious stone.
Yep.
You guys figure out what neighborhood you want to be in and put a placeholder number in the spreadsheet. That way, you're not going to be surprised when it comes to the end of the project and you've got these last few things. Because, guys, in a construction project, 80% of the money is inside the walls, is the stuff you don't see. It's the last 20% that you're excited about that comes at the end of the job, and we want you to have the money to get what you want to get.
Great work, Ant. Great work today.
Thanks, pal.
Great work. That was a good one.
You sound great. You sound great. Guys, until next time, you were home with the cousins. We will see you back on the interwebs.
Bye, guys.
Later. Hey guys, real quick before you go, we just wanted to say thanks for listening to the show this week. And if you have a second, please subscribe on the Apple Podcast app or wherever you get your podcasts. And share the show with your friends so we can keep growing this great community. Remember to check out homewiththecousins.com to read our show notes from this episode, see past episodes, download our free renovation document package, or just to send us a note. You can also find us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Carino Anthony and at Culinary John. Our show is produced and edited by yours truly, with original music intro and outro created by Steve and Joseph Padula. I'm Anthony Carino, and thanks for listening.